Hello, I'm Emmanuel Bach. I'm back with the 2-minute masterclass, and today it's Schubert Rondo in B minor. Since the music at the beginning is split up by rest, I'm going to start straight in by talking and playing. With regard to the first scale, I think it's really essential to immediately get the character across, and the character is of this encounter with fate, I think, and we need to have the bow very firmly on the string and bite and vibrate the first note, and then ensure that we have this very melodic, powerful upward scale, something like this. And that we really have this sense of attack and purpose to the scale. With regards to the second scale, that's almost an intensification, well, it is an intensification really, of the initial character. And I think we have two characters in the introduction to the rondo. We have the encounter with fate, and then we have a contemplation of the beyond, of another world, of heaven. And indeed in 1826, I think Schubert was already aware of his own mortality, and this contemplation of the beyond offers an escape from the inevitability of fate. With regard to the second scale, I think it's preferable if we can start on the G string like this, as that gives an added sense of power and passion to the music, which the music really evokes. And I think in terms of practice, it's also helpful to make the scale a little bit more manageable by finding a midpoint, so something like this on that B, finding that as the midpoint of the scale. Similarly here, that E represents the midpoint, so we can work while practicing that, practicing a little bit slower and using that as a point in between the onset of the scale and the arrival at the top. A little bit later, as mentioned, we have this passage of immense tenderness. The music gives way to a tenderness, but before that we have this sense of fatalism, and that's here. And we really need to ensure that the intermediary dotted rhythm is very piano. So, and then forte immediately on the downbeat. And then, of course, Schubert uses that as a turning point into something completely different. And that accent on the D is a last reminder, a last grip of an attack of fate before the music gives way to this wonderful tenderness, this dolce passage here. Then the piano takes over with the melodic material, while the violin has this admittedly very melodic accompaniment. But in the interleading section before the piano takes over, we can really afford to sing as much as possible, and I think we shouldn't be afraid of using some slides without, of course, over-sentimentalizing the music, as it still has this onward-driven sense of purpose, I think very subtly underlying what is going on. Of course, with the piano's accompaniment, that sense of purpose just keeps us moving all the time, and we really can afford to be as dolce as possible. So I think it's actually very appealing to have a slide here. And when we get to that rippling kind of accompaniment, we really need to be very supple in the arm and the wrist. While we're in an accompanying role, we must still bring something musically to what goes on. And I'm talking about in this sense. so we can bring out the changes in notes in each bar very, very subtly. Then of course we have a return of the Fate theme with the downward scales before the music comes to an apparent resting point, and then the rondo is launched, and it's really launched in the sense of a very sudden dance like this, and we can really afford to go for that, with the accent really playing a very important musical role in this particular work. It comes up all over the theme, and in a lot of the episodic sections as well. We have sforzandi or sudden forte passages as well. For emphasis, we have these fortissimo arrival points. It's really music that actually speaks quite a lot of extremes of emotion, and the actual rondo itself is really a dance. It's a dance of vehemence, a dance of joy, and I would say overall a dance of vehement joy. But it's actually piano when we start, and we really can afford to have this sense of playfulness, I think, to the accents. And of course, we have the first sudden contrast here. So really, a lot of this piece is actually about just immediately capturing the contrast, capturing the character, and this very, very powerful and indeed ultimately poignant immediacy to the music. It has a very immediate quality in the actual theme material of the rondo. We also need to be very alive to the accompaniment role that the violin sometimes plays, and the first place that comes up really is here. So being very, very light, adding this playful touch to this very vehement dance while the piano has the thematic material. A little later on, we have even more marked vehemence, and I'm thinking of here. And there it's really a case of going for it, really enjoying the accents and the powerful quality that they bring to the music. I should, of course, also touch on the other aspect of the theme, which is in the rondo, and it's here. So noting that we have an accent on the beat, and then we have an accent on the offbeat, like that. And this sense of reversal of the accent is really central to the theme, and is, of course, the sense of accentuation is an aspect that Schubert plays upon all the way through, and of the sense of reinforcement of dynamics that accents bring. The next place where that comes up actually is here, and then here, and we need to find a way of really distinguishing between accents, between fortes and sforzando, or the FZ marking. That's far too extensive a topic really to cover in a single video, and indeed is probably something that would occupy musicologists and researchers around the world, as well as musicians. But to touch on some other aspects we need to be thinking about in this piece, there's the lyrical tenderness, which does come back here. Now, those accents, I think, have a very different quality. It's an accent for emphasis of the emotion that is going on, and it's of love, of lyricism, and of tenderness. And the music does have this quality of being able to suddenly give way to a very different emotion. A little bit later on, we need to be thinking about tenderness as well, and that's in this episode. there, I think the music has a sense of relaxation, and of course that's preceded by something completely unexpected, which is this this change to G major, which is heralded at quite the last minute, and it comes after this very, very emphatic, very vehement part here. So we had this sudden arrival in a completely different key area, and key is something that Schubert really, really plays upon in this piece. Although it's apparently a rondo in B minor, actually a lot of the time we're moving between keys and we're in very different key areas. A little bit later, of course, we come to E flat major, which is even more kind of dreamy, nostalgic and relaxed than G major, and actually very foreign in the sense of the home key. So we get to here. And I think we really need to find a tenderness, and that comes through a combination of bow speed, vibrato, and the kind of gentle impulses that we need to give to keep those dotted rhythms moving and mobile. The music comes to a very, very important climax, of course, at the end, and we need to ensure that by the time we get to this point, that we've picked up to the right tempo, with that increase in tempo really being central to the music's culmination, and it's really very much an end-driven piece. Although there's all of this tenderness and lyricism, I think all the time we have a sense that there's something going on, and when we get to the very end we can really afford to absolutely let go. So and that we really go for those chords with absolute panache and commitment. I hope that's given a little bit of an elucidation into Schubert's Rondo in B minor. That's all for today.